Jeremy Swayman remains without a contract a week before the Bruins open their season October the 9th. Eunice Corpusalo, number 2 on the depth chart. And Monday, team president Cam Neely, shockingly candid.
I don't want to get into the weeds with what his ask is, but I know that I have 64 million reasons why I'd be playing right now.
I would never begrudge a player asking for what he thinks his value is.
I was surprised.
I'm a little surprised that you might take the position that the Bruins haven't been aggressive or aren't willing to go max term, and some of those comments. Like, at the end of the day, that is not how we've done business and don't intend to do business. There's a marketplace for every positional player, and we're firmly amongst that grouping.
I strongly believe that Jeremy wants to play here. I've asked him flat out, do you want to play here? And he does. I believe that they'll get a deal done. It's unfortunate it's not done today.
Now, Swayman's agent, Louis Gross, responded with a statement via the agency's Instagram page. Normally, I do not release statements or discuss negotiations through the media. However, I feel the need to defend my client. At today's press conference, $64 million was referenced. That was the first time that number was discussed in our negotiations. No offer was made reaching that level. We are extremely disappointed. This is not fair to Jeremy. We'll take a few days to discuss and see where we go from here.
It's time for Hey, I'm Talking Here with Frankie Corrado.
My first question for Frankie Corrado is, what's Cam Neely thinking here, Frankie? Are you surprised how ugly this is getting between the Bruins and Swayman at this point?
I'm very surprised, Jay. Talk about drama, and it's the Boston Bruins of all teams where, everything has been so spick and span for such a long time. Players like Bergeron, these guys have all taken less money to be a part of the solution there, and everything seemed to work well. Now you have a goaltender who has a lot of leverage because you've traded Linus Ullmark, and he wants to get every penny, and his agent is going to make sure that he does so. But it's really noisy. There's a lot of drama, and it's hard to imagine how they get past something like this, Jay, because it's bad enough when a goaltender goes to arbitration. There's a lot of hard feelings there, and that was the case last summer between these two parties. No one elected arbitration this time around, but somehow, some way, it got worse, and it's getting worse. It's a really bizarre situation. It's not something we see very often. And it's like when, two kids get into a fight at school, they get called to the principal's office. There's one kid's story, there's the other kid's story, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. And that's the reality of this situation. The truth is somewhere in the middle as far as, are the Bruins offering $64 million or are they not? And what is Jeremy Swayman's ask, and is it realistic?
And for Neely to come up publicly and throw that number out, it's like throwing gasoline onto the fire. Do you think this still ends with Swayman playing in Boston, Frankie?
It's a good question, just because of all the hard feelings over the last two seasons. I'm going to say yes. But if it's true what Cam Neely is saying, that they have offered him $64 million to play for this team, and if he hasn't taken it, that's crazy. That is very fair for a goaltender he's really good, Jay. He's played 132 NHL games. He's, one of the best, 7 to 10 goalies in the league for sure, no doubt about that. But he's never really been a starter before. He's played behind a guy who won a Vezina. He's played on a very good team. All that stuff can be true, and Jeremy Swayman can get the maximum amount that he's owed with this team. But it's hard to imagine he would be saying no to that much money. These are the 8-year deals that have been signed, the top 5 8-year deals. His deal, if he were to sign it at $64 million, would be right under Ilya Sorokin, right above UC Saros. And Sorokin and Saros have been battle-tested. Yep. Those are guys that have had heavy workloads at the time of signing those deals. There was no unknown with those guys. And Jeremy Swayman's a really good goalie. He might turn out to be, an even better goalie than we can imagine. But there just still has to be a little bit of unknown as far as, is he a real, number one 60-game guy? How long can that go for? And if it's $64 million, That's a very fair deal to Jeremy Swayman. I can't imagine why he wouldn't be taking that. But if that's not the case, then I can understand why this negotiation is still dragging out.
At the very least, I think things need to quiet down with that crew a little bit. No update yet on Patrik Laine, though Patrik Laine did, in fact, watch his Habs teammates practice on Monday morning, Frankie. Laine was seen on the bench with crutches. The team yet to provide an update on his status after he left Saturday's preseason game against Toronto following a knee-on-knee hit from Cedric Perret.
The number one job we had to do with Patty is make him excited to come to the rink. And he was. And it's not just my job, it's the group. When you're rebuild, like you're building a house, the house could look really nice, but is it a home? Right? It takes more to make it a home. And I feel like seeing Patty coming in like that makes me feel that we're building a home, not just a house. So I think it stings a little more because I feel he was excited to come to the rink.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate, Frankie, and though we don't have an update on how long Laine will be out, you think the bigger issue was just having him on the ice with Perret in a preseason game?
Okay, Jay, it's not Cedric Perret specifically. Just everyone has their opinion on the preseason, right? It's too long, there's too many games, it drags out. Here's another one for you, okay? If one team is going to dress their NHL players, or the majority of them are going to be NHL players, the other team should as well. Then there's equal skin in the game, and we don't have a situation like this where, no offense to the guy Perret that took out Patrik Laine, that guy's probably not playing in the NHL this season. Patrik Laine is a big part of the Montreal Canadiens, and he needs to get his career back on track for himself and to help that team take another step. Now, we're not sure how long it's going to be until he's available, and that's a nasty knee injury. This is the way coaches can get around this preseason is make an arrangement with the other coach and say, we are bringing 6 guys, we're bringing our top 6, maybe the other team can bring their middle 6 or their bottom 6 forwards, and they're going to have an equal amount of D that have equal skin in the game. But this is your workaround when it comes to the preseason. Everyone knows it's too long. Everyone knows there's too many games. Have equal skin in the game, because that play specifically, Jay, that's a play where a skilled defenseman in the NHL is going to be flat-footed, making a stand at the blue line. The good defensemen, they can do that kind of stuff. That's a forward being put in a position with a dynamic skating player like Patrik Laine. I'm surprised we don't see these types of things happen more often. It's just the disparity between the skill levels is too significant. Have equal skin in the game when you're going to have these exhibition games.
And Frankie, you heard Marty St. Louis talk about it. Everyone was so excited about Patrik Laine being a member of the Montreal Canadiens this year. After last year, and he's in the Players Assistance Program, he's been dealing with injuries. He's not quite turned back into that dynamic goal scorer we knew he was going to be coming out of the draft. You really have to feel for him at this point, don't you?
I do, Jay. It's devastating. He hasn't played a lot of hockey over the last few years of his career. And, if the Montreal Canadiens were going to take a step forward this year, Patrik Laine was not only going to have to be healthy for that to happen, he was going to have to be productive and play for that to happen. And you know what happens when you're an injured player? And this is where it really messes with your mind. You almost just get used to being hurt. It's like you wait for the next one, or you think the next one is around the corner, and you almost forget a couple things. You forget what made you a good player, and you forget what the grind is like to play every game and be in that grind instead of the injury grind. And you're always trying to work your way back to, to put it in golf terms, you're always trying to work your way back to even par. Well, when do you start going under par? When do you start really making some moves? And, you have to be healthy for that to happen. And unfortunately for Patrik Laine, he has not been over the last few seasons. It's devastating to see him go out with an injury like that. And it's potentially devastating to the chances the Montreal Canadiens have of taking a significant step forward this season if he's not available.
Frankie, thanks for this.